Hi, this is János, it is Real World Audio, and today I'm going to address the mid-bass in relationship to La Grande and Le Petit, because there's a lot of interest in this subject, and people are generally worried that the driver is too small and maybe they are not going to get enough mid-bass. So what's happening? So now I'm going to read out John Watches NYC's comment. Dear János, thank you so much for the amazing videos. Thank you, John. You have taught me so much. Le Petit will be my first speaker project. Question. My listening room is fairly large and I can't put the system anywhere else. Since the room will not reinforce mid-bass, would it make sense to use a larger driver to get a flatter frequency response? What are the advantages or disadvantages of trying this approach? Thank you for your thoughts. With kind regards, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan, and I'm going to talk now a little bit more about mid-bass and Le Petit and La Grande, because both of them, I think they have roughly the same amount of mid-bass and they behave the same way with regards as room placement, room size. And what I have noticed and what Jürgen has noticed with his Le Petit is that we don't need to worry about the mid-bass. So on my part, what I have noticed that I have a fairly large room here where I'm doing the videos and where I have La Grande set up, and the setup in this room is really complicated. So I'm trying to just do a quick drawing here. I have shown this a couple of times already. Like I have the speakers here, sofa is here, and so I'm just drawing things. So something like that, if it makes any sense. So my room is longitudinal, like that, actually even much longer than I drew it. And the speakers are set up here, like let's say the sofa is here. I have a chair here, a chair there, and then a big part of the living room. But then beyond that, there's a kitchen area and a hall, and on the other side, I have actually some stairs going up upstairs. So the room volume, the air volume is just humongous that the drivers have to work with, and the layout is the worst I ever met in my life in regards of mid-bass support. So here in this room they have the mother of mid-bass suck out. It's not that it's supporting mid-bass, no, it's sucking out even the memory of mid-bass. So my room is the nightmare for mid-bass, and in this room most of the speakers, they are not happy producing any mid-bass at all. So for example, La Grande in this room with these tiny drivers, they produce more and better mid-bass than the Mirage did with their two 8-inch drivers. So if you are worried about mid-bass, I would say neither with Le Petit, neither La Grande, you should not be worried. And I'm not saying that you will get the mid-bass you want, because I don't know what it is you want, but I can tell you that if you choose other loudspeakers, these two will be amongst ones that will offer, I would say probably close to the maximum of the mid-bass offering that any loudspeaker can offer without EQing. So if we want more mid-bass, then it requires serious EQing, but I really question that. If you need more bass, I don't know, because as I said, here in my room there's absolutely zero mid-bass reinforcement whatsoever, and even with these beyond atrocious conditions, I am very happy with what I'm getting out of them. And And what else? I want to share something about those frequency predictions, the software analysis that I've been sharing. So when we plot the SPL versus the frequency, and we draw a plot, what is the software predicted output of the driver. So this takes into account the base reflex nature of the cabinet, but it doesn't say anything about the face, how the cabinet is, how it interfaces with your room acoustics, and how the live cabinet changes that. So all of those are not included, and it's not included in those graphs either, what the room does to it. So basically it then looks, I just drew this is how it looks like. So if you go up in the frequency range and we start dropping, and you see there's like a little drop in the mid bass, like below about 100 hertz or so, the output starts to drop by a few dB, and then with the port tuning it comes back, comes up to the 0 dB, and then below the port tuning frequency it drops. So now Jonathan's question was, what would happen if we put a bigger driver in it? So then let me just get another color. So then what would happen would be actually that the drop would be actually even more pronounced. So we would even lose more mid bass, and this is what we would get, that here we have the output, and it will start dropping earlier, dropping more, and then coming back, and then for the very low frequencies we will have more output, but up to that in the mid bass suck out will be even bigger with a little smaller, let's say like an 8-inch driver. However, they're with the same cabinet. The emphasis is on the same cabinet. To prevent this scenario when you have the mid bass suck out, you need to put that bigger driver in a much bigger cabinet, and then it won't be an issue. But that's how physics works. A bigger driver with working at a higher efficiency, it needs a much bigger cabinet to have the same bass response. And if you are restricting it to the same cabinet size, by increasing the size of the driver of the woofer, we'll actually get less and less mid bass. So that route will not give us better mid bass. However, what it will give us, what is not apparent from here, because this is just the respective output when they are playing at the same SPL, is the bigger driver will give you more efficiency. So it won't play at like 89, 90 dB anymore with 1 watt, but it will play at maybe like 93, 95 or even more if we are going for a bigger driver. And so going for a bigger driver will not give us more mid bass. What it will give us is the ability to play louder for most frequencies, but you will get less mid bass. So if we want more mid bass, what you can get, even if you have a very bad room situation, just put the speakers closer to the wall behind them. And even if you have a bad situation, so you cannot give them side support, you can still put them closer to the wall behind them and give them more mid bass reinforcement. But for me, even in this room that doesn't do any mid bass support whatsoever, and I have the system rack behind, so I cannot put them as close to the wall behind to give them support. Even with this really bad situation, I don't have any issue with mid bass, and I'm really happy with it. I have to add though that I have nice mid bass when I'm sitting in the couch or here in the chairs, but if I walk around the rooms, I have lots of spots where it's disappearing. So no, it cannot load the entire room in this fashion with mid bass, but if you can set it up optimally, you can put it close to the walls, then it can load the whole room and you won't have those bad suck out points. But as I said, my room is just a nightmare from this standpoint, and even if you have a really bad room that doesn't support mid-bass, it's probably not going to be as bad as this. And what I've noticed with the majority of audiophiles, for most people, not Jonathan, the problem is that mid-bass is out of control. It's the exact opposite. And most of you, the problem will be not that it doesn't have enough mid-bass. The issue what you will find is that if you place them too close to the wall or too close to the corner, you will just have too much mid-bass. And in the beginning, you will love it because it's something that when you have, like, I'm just going to draw it here with another green line, that if you have mid-bass overpowering every other frequency range, then what will happen is that if there's 10 person listening to it for 5 minutes, then 9 out of 10 will prefer it to any other sound. But if you have to listen to it for half an hour, then 5 out of 10 will tap out and said, okay, I'm getting listening fatigue. I can't take this anymore. This is really, that's when your brain will start to pick up that doesn't sound good. It's just a tone control device and it's playing with you, doing tricks on you. And yeah, for a few minutes, you know, for every children, everything new is a shiny toy. But after half an hour, you are getting conscious that there's something fishy going on, and you are getting fatigued, you are getting bored, because everything has that monotonous, overbearing mid-bass. And if you have to listen to beyond 2 to 3 hours, then 9 people out of 10 will tap out and say, please shut it off. I don't want this system in my home. If only in cases if you listen to it like 5-10 minutes a day, but then it's unlistenable for a long term. And I would like to reiterate this a couple more times, that what I am giving to you as solutions is something that you can listen to for extended periods, that doesn't give you fatigue, that doesn't ruin your hearing. And if you have overbearing mid-bass, it will ruin your hearing, and you might be happy with it today for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, but 20 years from now you will just ask your friend, or when they ask you something, because you won't be able to hear what they are saying. You accrue so much hearing damage. And by the way, I'm giving this also as a warning, because both Le Petit and La Grande have the potential that if you place them too close to the wall, they will give you that massive mid-bass hump, and that. But luckily, they do not play ultra loud, so that you can really ruin your hearing overnight with them, like within less than a year. They can play loud enough so that you will have fun with them, but not that loud that you will damage your hearing too soon. So I would say that both kinds of demands can be met. So if you just want a shit ton of mid-bass being punched at you, just put them close to the wall behind them. And even if you have a bedroom, they will have monstrous mid-bass. And it will be never your first thought that they are lacking mid-bass once they are well broken in and you are matching them with proper equipment. Because there is one thing that everyone have been warning all of you, including myself, Torsten of Snake Oil Audio, Jürgen at the I Am Mad channel, everyone who is building Le Petits and their versions, is that they require really high quality amplifiers and sources. And if your sources and amplifiers, they cannot do mid-bass, then these speakers will not fake them for you. So they will not generate them from a source that does not provide them with the quality material. However, when the source is capable of providing high quality material, then everyone will say, is saying in those cases, wow, it's really remarkable. And I know there's many of you worrying, like, what's going to happen, shall I start with this project or not? And I say that you don't have to worry about the mid bass. It will be there, and if you want more, just move them closer to the wall behind them. And I know now there's people who really are into that imaging type of situation, when you want that razor sharp Muppet Show playing around in front of you, and for that you have to pull your speakers away from the rear wall. Yeah, that's true. If you want to Muppet Show, bring them closer to you, but what the Muppet Show fans need to experience is the room filling sound that these speakers can provide, which most normal speakers cannot provide. There are some speaker types like omnidirectional speakers, or if you have like very large panel speakers, open baffles, big ones, or you have those giant Altec speakers, they can provide that room filling sound, but most of that experience, almost no audiophile experiences it. It's so rare that you can spend a lifetime. I never meet an audiophile who has this kind of equipment. And some of you say, no, all of my friends play around with that gear. Yeah, but if you like interview or talk to many people, you will, what I have read from my comments that I got as feedback, that it is not the case for most people. For most people, the case is they probably never heard that kind of sound, and Le Petit and La Grande can provide that kind of sound, that really big, bold concert feel. So it doesn't feel like you are recording to a polished, chrome polished, a fancy show, an illusion that's playing out in front of you in that small area, but you are in a live event, participating in what's happening. So I hope, Jonathan, that was a little bit helpful. So I would say, do not worry about the mid bass. What I would say is that the only thing what I have noticed living with it is that the peak volume that they can reach is not the most, and the limitation with the peak volume is not at the mid bass. It's more at the very deep bass. So if you have material that has like 20 hertz material, or 25 hertz or lower, then that's what's limiting how much you can crank up the volume. So for example, when I was listening to Madonna's Ray of Light at the beginning of the break-in, I really had to crank down the volume, because those super low frequencies which are in that recording, they really started to like cause like funny distortions. By now it has broken in much more, so it's much more gentle with that and can handle it much better than it did at the beginning of the break-in. But still, I cannot crank Madonna's Ray of Light even now as loud as I can a 12-inch woofer, because it does not have that sort of excursion. So that's the thing, that even though they can play remarkably loud, but it only applies to a situation when you don't have super deep bass. So if it's like down to 40 hertz, like 40 hertz and up material, it's very nice. And below 40 hertz, if you have too much deep bass, that's my concern with these speakers, and that's where actually Le Petit would hit the barrier first, and La Grande is really optimized to play basically down to 30 hertz. So La Grande can take material with deep bass as well, can play them not super loud, but loud enough that you can enjoy. I can enjoy a full organ recording with La Grande. With Le Petit, because of those low frequencies we would already reach the limits, so then we would have to crank the volume down, and it would not have be the same experience, but the mid bass is there. So thank you, have an awesome day, and thank you, Jonathan, for your wonderful question. Bye bye.